For this exercise we're going to use our moulding paste. I have this brand, which is the Atelier. It used to be called modelling compound, but now moulding paste. So there's different varieties, but you want something that is quite thick. And there's a number of ways of using this for the journals. The journals that I've showed you previously, I've used some stencils. One of them, I use this larger mandala stencil and just use part of the stencil on the cover. It's a little hard to tell now with the colour on, but I think you can see the texture there. The smaller one, this journal, I've actually used something like this one, and I've just chosen, I think it was this design, and I've put one in the hole, using the whole of that stencil and then part of it offset. So that's our stenciling, which I'll show in a moment. There are other stencils, I'm sure you have different ones. You could use something like this leaf stencil and use parts of it. And the other option with the moulding paste, we can use it freehand and scrape it on and scrape into it. So we'll look at these now, the two different ways to do it. So first of all, I'll just start with this one I've used previously. And to apply the moulding paste, you can either use, I like these plastic palette knives that come in different configurations, but if you don't have that around, you can use, this is a plastic store card that I've cut in two. The reason I cut it in two is because when it's totally together, it's hard to get it into the modelling paste jar. So just with your stencil, I'll just use one of these guys again. Now before you start with the modelling paste too, keep in mind on our journals there's going to be this section here where we do use our stick and bring it together and where the cover bends. So you don't want your moulding paste coming up to that edge, because it'd be hard to bend the cover through the moulding paste design. You can mark this off if you like, or just stay away from it. The measurement we're going to use there is 2 centimeters, which I think is about an inch in that system. So you can, if you like, mark your board to give yourself a bit of a guideline, just so you don't put your moulding paste over where we're going to have that fold. And then with your palette knife, just getting a reasonable amount on there, not too much, scraping it through the stencil. I do find probably different stencils are going to give you different thicknesses of paste. This is a fairly thick stencil, and I'm also scraping off the access. Again, it doesn't matter if it's perfect, the stencil, because we're going to paint over it, and sometimes I like them to be not quite perfect. It gives an interesting look. And careful lift the stencil up, and as you can see, how cool is that? Moulding paste through stencil. So I'm going to do a couple more on here. I like them kind of half off the page. Just gives the design a bit off. Carefully lifting. And when you're doing the edges, you'll notice, apart from getting it on my desk, a little bit will come over the edge, so you can give that a bit of a scrape or run your finger on it, because it will be a bit hard to get off later. Might have another one here. The moulding paste, depending what size jar you get, it's a 250 jar. I believe you can get 500 and even a litre of moulding paste. It depends how much you use it. But it goes quite a long way. I'm just like flat with the black, flat with it, getting it on, and then scraping it across and off, just to give that nice even, and you can see the stencil through it, and carefully lifting the stencil off. You may also like to move your board around. Oh, there we go. I'm getting in a mess already. Might have another one off center a bit here. And again, just cleaning up those edges. And that'll probably do me for my design. As I said, keeping away from this edge where you're going to have that fold. So that's one way of doing the moulding paste with the stencil, and also, you know, you want to wash your stencils up pretty quickly. The other way we can work is by just randomly spreading some moulding paste. And you can do this if you don't have stencils, or just if you want a more random freeform design. Again, keeping away from this edge. When you've got however much you want on, don't put it on too thick, because it does take a while to dry. You can run your knife through it, getting some squares. You can even sort of scrape a bit off, giving different effects. Put some more down. You can also use something like the end of a small paintbrush to do things like spirals, and you want to wipe that off then on a piece of paper towel so it doesn't get too clogged. Different shapes. You can use things like this is a wooden fork to draw, scrape through wavy lines. Really anything that's going to give you texture. You could even do dots, but you get the idea. So that gives you another option if you don't have any stencils to hand, or you just want to be more free form. As I said, don't get the moulding paste too thick because it will take a little while to dry. So once you're happy with either a stencil design or your random design, your freeform design, put them aside to dry. You can leave them depending how soon you want to get this done. If you're in a hot sunny place, I find putting it out in the sun, because I'm in Australia, only takes maybe half an hour to dry. You could use a hairdryer, or depending on your time, you can just leave them overnight to make sure they're dry. So that's the moulding paste done, and I'll see you in the next video for our next step once our moulding paste is dry.